what I want to talk about today is probably the root of what keeps people stuck and struggling and suffering, as opposed to living in moment-to-moment freedom, intuition, spontaneity, and just trusting life. And, this is kind of where the path went for me. So it comes down to the story of the victim. It really does, right? And it can really be triggering to hear me talk like this, but it can also be very freeing if we're willing to see why it's triggering us so much, because of how much identity is tied in there, right? So the point is releasing the victim story. You just literally, this is what it comes down to. And there's different aspects, right? We can talk about this in different ways. And the releasing of the victim story is one that plays out through healing modalities and meditation and inner work and energy healing and this and that. It all has its place, right? But the foundation that makes us be able to live life in intuition, in trust, in just this connection and realizing that nothing's ever gone wrong. Everything is just a perfect synchronicity playing out perfectly. It's beautiful. It's amazing. It's incredible. It's mysterious. It's absolutely fucking mind-blowing. But you only get there when you start realizing that there's nothing up against you, right? Everything is happening because you wanted it to happen this way. And if this is triggering and you don't like it, then that's fine. But if you like the stuff that I share, I have to get more direct in my sharing, because it was these kind of more direct realizations that led to loads of freedom in my life. But you have to feel the raw stuff that's hiding behind these identities, right? So when I say there's actually nothing that's made you a victim of your circumstances. You're not a victim of your circumstances. You're not a victim of the external world. You're not a victim of the universe that's fucked up your life. You're kind of in a process of releasing the small mind, the separate self, and that self that wants to fight the process will spin the victim story, right? And it's fine. Even the victim story is something that can be held and it can be seen to be innocent. It is innocent, right? So when I say directly, like, release the victim story forever, that shit's not serving you. But at the same time, it doesn't mean I'm judging anybody who's caught up in the victim story, because I was caught up in the victim story. And it is serving that part of you at that time in your life. But what happens is we get addicted to that part of ourselves and we have competing agendas, right? So there's the one that wants this, real connection with life, but then we'll just, the victim story is like our safety net, right? As soon as things kind of, you can't have the bliss and the freedom without the willingness to feel into the void and existential terror, right? So this is the competing agendas, right? The mind gets lured into the idea of awakening and freedom and enlightenment and liberation and peace. A mosquito or something that wants to join in the conversation. You want all of these things. And if you want those things, then you're going to attract the experiences that make you feel the shame that you need to feel. Right? This was kind of the realization for me as the path went deeper, that every time it felt like something had gone wrong in my life and it made me feel helplessness, pure, utter helplessness of no idea how to go anywhere, how to put another foot forward in the right direction. There was no right direction anymore. And that's what leads to freedom, right? Because once you've really felt into those spaces that's what stops us from living in moment-to-moment freedom, is the fear of helplessness. You have to experience the helplessness. You have to experience the shame. You have to experience those emotions. And that's the thing, right? You're not a victim when those experiences come to you. This is what I realized, that I wanted those experiences and I needed to have those experiences, because then on the other side of not running from helplessness anymore, living in moment to moment, kind of not knowing, right? Not knowing, like, to live in moment to moment, not knowing, and enjoy the mystery and the peace and the kind of the connection. You have to experience what it feels like to why you wouldn't want to live that way, if that makes sense. I don't know if this is making sense, but basically there is no ground, right? There is no one moving through the timeline. There is no one that can make anything happen. And that's what feels so good eventually, but it doesn't feel good to feel through what's stopping us from living like that, right? It feels so good to be helpless because you're not in charge in the way, but you can still take inspired action, right? You can still create things, you can still do things, but you'll just see that you don't actually know how it's going to play out. You don't know what you're actually doing. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just following intuition, right? You follow resonance, right? I'm like, you start to feel that you live in this different way where it's like, oh, I can see, somebody saying they're going to be here at this time, and I have this desire to have a conversation with this person, and then you follow it up, and either it works out or it doesn't, right? That's part of it as well. And then if it doesn't work out, maybe it's like, oh, wow. Oh, look, I thought I've done all the stuff, but now there's an opportunity to surrender to the feeling of things not playing out how I thought they were going to. And then again, it's just another release into freedom of, oh, wow, look at that. I didn't even know how this was going to go, where this is going. So yeah, I guess like the point here is just don't be, the victim story can come up, but this is what it eventually feels like for me, is you actually, in non-duality and awakening, there's all this talk of non-doership and, no free will. And that's true on one side, but then the other side of it is also that in that moment, you have the choice of, am I going to go back into the victim story, or am I just going to be like, fuck that shit? I know that like, this is kind of the brain retraining as well. This is where awakening and non-duality and the brain retraining stuff all ties in so nicely together, because it's like, are you going to feed that pathway still? Are you going to, and to not feed that pathway means you're going to have to feel some uncomfortable stuff. So this is why there's competing agendas, right? It's like, okay, I can go into this story about, how things are against me and how I'm never going to wake up because of my story and because I've been at this for millions of years, and I'm, I just have such a stubborn mind. And it's like, that's it, right? If you want to believe that, you can believe that. I can't stop you from doing that. And I don't want to, because if that's what you want to believe, that's what you want to believe. But if you're like, hey, I'm sick of that story, I don't know what's on the other side, right? That's why you cling to the story, because you don't know what's on the other side. But that's what we're talking about, right? That's what me and Angelo and Ajashanti, like, it's and I'm not like, whatever, maybe I shouldn't be putting myself amongst those names. But who the fuck is this guy? But that's what the pointer is towards. Is towards that living in the unknown, right? And it's like, to live in the unknown, you have to see that the reason we cling to the story is because the mind is terrified of the unknown. But who are you if you drop that story? If you're no longer the victim that's had all this shit happen to them, it doesn't matter how much trauma you've had. Right, you can, and this is not gaslighting or bypassing. Right, you can still do the trauma work. I've even on the, like, the place where I'm at now, where everything just feels right, I still find benefit from working with an energy healer who could pick up things that are stored in the body. Right, so it doesn't mean you can't do any of that, but the distinction of what's right and wrong and what I should and shouldn't be doing, that all just drops away when you realize that you don't need to know. You don't need to live in the grasping of having to know what you're doing or where you're going, because the only reason you needed to do that was because we were afraid of really dying into the unknown. So, and you have to let go of everything. You have to let go of your teachers. You have to let go of your practices. You have to let go of your attachment to them, right? So it doesn't mean that you have to, I still like to meditate. I still like to listen to Angelo DeLillo's pointers here and there, but you have to let go of the attachment to it. And you don't even have to do this. Life is the only teacher, really. It will relentlessly show you where you're holding on, because it'll feel like struggle. And then it's like, wait, what am I not willing to let go of here? And then on the other side of it, you'll realize that you never held on to anything, right? You never, it sounds so extreme, right? That you have to let go of everything. You have to lose everything, because it all is illusion, right? But then on the other side, you realize it always was illusion, right? So you never lost a thing. You didn't. Every feeling of something that you lost was all just kind of an appearance, but you don't need to bypass, you don't need to go into that to bypass the feeling either, right? This is the balance. It's like you see that it's all appearance, and then there's no need to avoid the pure human experience, your pure humanness, the human that has its neuroses and its tendencies, and you know, that's all held. That's all part of it. There's no separation. There's nothing outside of this. The only reason someone needs to fixate is because there's something that they don't want to see. There's something that they don't want to feel. So then we'll fixate and, oh, it's all story. There's nothing. There's nobody. And that's true. But maybe, like, why do you need to keep saying that? As Angela has said it so beautifully once, where it's like, when you really see all of this stuff, it's like saying that Santa Claus is not real. You don't need to walk around 24/7 saying that, proving to everybody that Santa Claus is not real. It's just, you just realize it, right? There's no self, there's nobody there, there's nobody making any of this happen. But that doesn't mean that you can't make choices, you can't take action. It's really the embrace of paradox, right? Because I can hear, if we're coming at this from an intellectual perspective, your mind will hate what I'm saying, because it's like, but that doesn't make any fucking sense. And there we go, that's the crux of it. Feel into that. What does it feel like if things just don't make sense? And then things do clarify, right? There is, but it's not through purely intellect. It's through like a deeper knowing. So yeah, that's a little bit of a mishmash, but just kind of what felt like sharing today. So I hope that is maybe resonateful. That's a new word. Enjoy.